You really can't. Recently, I was part of a team that actually, sat in an interview panel with, to get a CEO of a big bank, or one of the top banks in Nigeria. And the truth of the matter is that there were three, four candidates that were sitting there and we're talking to. Some of them had it, there's some that just didn't have it. But there was one person that when he came across and he spoke, everybody was just like very interested. We had more questions for him. We had all of those things, simply because there was something about him that was engaging. And it wasn't in terms of technical expertise. He wasn't so much, he wasn't even better than some of the candidates. Some of the candidates were really packed, but there was something about him that just inspired something, right? So basically, there are three things that they see. One of the foremost researchers of executive presence is a lady called Sylvia Ann Hewitt. And basically, she describes it as, there are three core pillars, something called gravitas. Sometimes when you're listening to Nigerians and they're talking, it's like, I have gravitas, or this person has gravitas. I don't know if they know what they're talking about, but here we are. So, this is the ability to project confidence, credibility, authority. And it's the executive cornerstone of executive presence, signaling that, you're a person of substance. You know, that kind of person that speaks that you're even afraid to ask a question, right?
Yeah,
Person
yeah,
communicates. They have the ability to communicate. And their appearance is one of them. I beg you, people, appearance. And I think our friend here can help you, or Adabo can help you sort that out. And it's a
yeah,
source of controversy. So, one of the things about appearance is that it's context as well, personal grooming, attire, corporate culture, and so on. And in this thing is what makes executive presence a bit iffy for some scholars, because in this case, it may be context specific. So some people don't really like executive presence and how it is, the thing for leadership, because they say it's about men, about how men turn out and so on, and it excludes women and so on and so forth. But anyway, so we're going to jump to the first question that, Adabo has asked me. And what are the misconceptions, So basically, most people think it's innate, is a monolithic trait, like an exclusive factor that you are born with. Remember leadership. When we talk about leadership, are leaders born and leaders made, So something executive presence is also not, something that is made. I think that not something you're born with, something that you develop over time. And it's a series of things. I don't know if some of you know, how South Africans say Ubuntu, right? I am one, but I come as one, but I'm 1,000, So there's everything behind me. What I've done before, my failures that have made me confident, and so on. So it's years of experience. It's also reading the room. It's a lot of emotional intelligence. So executive presence is not a mystical quality, right? Some people believe it's unteachable, is one of those magical qualities, but I think that it's a learnable skill, So I think that that's it. Number two says that it is only about confidence and communication. Well, so while they're key components, they're just a tip of the iceberg, right? So there are other things that start it off. In the beginning, it's maybe about communication, it's about appearance, it's about gravitas. Then over time, it's about integrity, about values in action, and it's about consistent outcome in delivery. So here you are, when you come there, your confidence, your presence, your comportment shows it. But at the end of it, people are going to be looking at, okay, how do you use those three things to be able to infuse those interpersonal integrity, values in action, and consistent outcome? And then, the definition of executive presence is not single. It is not unbiased and it is not, universal. So, um, senior leaders often assume that, there's a shared objective of understanding of what constitutes executive presence. So in a social construct, it's very, very difficult, because if the society is male dominated, and this is where, some of the iffy things, or if you like, when they say there's a science to something and this is the one that it doesn't, it's context specific. Because in some cases, women or people of color, let's say now, for example, when you go to white dominated societies, you don't find Black people, even though they have presence, even though they were, that's a personal integrity, values in action, consistent outcome, all of those things are very different from each society. So you find that we don't scale it, or women do not scale it because there's certain things that they say. So I don't know if and it doesn't have to be about conforming. So most people think that it's about conforming. It's also a very, very personal trait. I can't teach you my executive presence, but
Yes.
I may teach you to be able to find yours. Is it okay? Have I answered that question?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I like the flow you've given it, and I like it because it's objective. It's something that you can put your fingers on. And I'll just summarize the flow I just heard you give. Executive presence is the it factor. It factor. There's the gravitas, the presence that you have. There's part of your appearance and your communication also, right? These things, funny thing is that in the workplace, most workplaces, they don't teach it. They set targets, they set KPIs, and they see people who can lead or who are supposed to know how to lead, and they just let them run.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons I started this community so that we can be objective with these few things. And I would like to play a video at this point, just to buttress the points you have mentioned. There's a particular leader I worked with um, while in GSK, and he had that presence. One second, I'm trying to share, but it's not working. Okay, once it's working, I'll go back to that video.
Okay.
Um, okay, I think it's yes. So something about him that made everyone's sit up, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I found it's going now. Just give me a second, everyone. Let me open the clip. Bum, bum, bum. There it is. Mhm. It's loading. Please just give me a few seconds.
It's okay. So
Please let me.
before it starts, maybe, as you're going on, I think it's important to also look at, some of the data. Like, out of 400 CEOs that, corporate leaders that were sort of interviewed, 89% believe that executive presence is critical factor for the success of leadership. So the numbers are high, are really high. So I think it's something that we should encourage ourselves to develop.
Watching you as a young employee. Thank you very much for that point. In fact, I think it's the most important factor for anyone entering the C-suite um, role, all right? Or those who are there already but don't have it, they have to understand how crucial it is to be sustainable, to the long-term objective. Watching you as a young employee was just mind-blowing. When you step into the room, your sleeves was folded most times, like the way they're folded today. So I know it's not by coincidence your sleeves are folded, but that sent a loud message throughout the organization. Everybody wanted to deliver because Chidu goes around. Okay. So Maryam, that video, let's talk about that video a bit because I think that's the perfect example of what you just described. Um, an ex-colleague of mine in this group also gave a story about how she worked for the same person, and we had the same feeling. He just influenced the whole company, top down, bottom up. Everybody wanted to deliver. You couldn't be a slacker when he was around, and even when he wasn't around, you just want to deliver. He had the presence, he had the leadership. He was so inspiring. And when I interviewed him, he said he learned these things, right? So now my question is, how does someone intentionally learn this art? Because just folding his sleeve, he wasn't saying anything, but it was loud. It was really that loud. So how can people objectively learn this art?
Hmm. Okay. Um, I think that, it's like a bit like leadership, a bit like emotional intelligence. I think all of us would have sat down with it. So would have looked at what the components are and looked at how we are going to develop it, and so on. So, executive presence in itself is the ability to signal to others what you're capable of. You're trustworthy, you're inspiring, which is what you said about, the gentleman that you just showed his video, and be able to exert influence beyond their formal authority. So, all of us know that there's some bosses that we work for. When they say it's 9 to 5, literally, when it's 5, all of us carry our bags because a person is not worth spending the extra time. There's some people that the boss will not be in the office, but you'll be there till 8 and 9 because you know he's coming the next day and you want to make a presentation to him. So really, it's about influence and inspiration. So while confidence and communication are more visible manifestations of it, true executive presence is really built on something much deeper. So I think me, I like evidence-based things, So I'm going to draw on evidence a lot. So character and substance. Usually most people that have, executive presence are authentic. They have a lot of integrity and trustworthiness. So they've proved themselves. I remember in that video, you sent it to me earlier, and the guy always, folded his cuffs, signaling that there's work to be done and he's ready to do it before anybody else. That's what it means. Like when, your cuffs are folded, it's like, okay, there's this one, we're going to get down and dirty. And he's not afraid to get down and dirty. So already he's inspiring the fact that this man can do this work. He's decisive, he's courageous, he's able to make tough decisions and speak to power. And emotional intelligence is a real huge bedrock of this. Can you read the room? Yes. So your character and your substance, your connection and influence, which is interpersonal layers. How do you react or how do you interface with people? What is your personality like? Are you that person that is not accommodating? Because that is also very, very important. If I cannot make you feel that you're okay, situational analysis that, you look at the room, you understand the dynamics, you come inside, you realize that, this guy is sad. Yes, I was in a board meeting the other day and we were talking about people, so it's about tech, tech companies, they're now, or not tech companies. So what people do now, businesses are becoming very digital, very tech, AI is here. So we're looking for people that have those kind of backgrounds. So sometimes when they come and one person moves, the whole department moves with the person. That person has executive presence and leadership and they go with it. So we're talking about how to retain people. What do we make them happy? Because some of the, you heard about Google paying some of their engineers, how many millions of naira not to work at all, not to go anywhere and not to work. They don't want them to work for anybody because they're afraid that if they go to they leave them like that, they go to the competition and tell competition what they do. So they're not supposed to work, oh, they're just sitting pretty on millions of dollars. So most of us cannot afford those millions of, dollars. So we need to be able to keep people. How do we keep people? So somebody in the boardroom was saying that his first boss, the reason why she kept him where he was for like 20 something years was because she cared about him. When you came in the morning and she sees him, and he was a bachelor then when he first started, did you eat? And then she would say no. Before he talks to her, she should go and eat, you know. And she became almost like his mom or his carer. And for him, that was just it. The person that was, you see more than what is out there, right? Empathy and engagement. You have to be inspirational. Your poise and your demeanor. You can't come looking shabby and unhappy and dirty and expect that, people are going to find inspiration with you. Especially us Nigerians, we're highly critical. Even if your button has gone off, you say, what's wrong with him today? This problem. So truly, I think that it is more than anything else for me is integrity and confidence, and not confidence in knowing everything that you know. That kind of confidence I say, last, you know how we are Nigerians, it's going to be okay, Sha. We're all going to be okay. Last is going to be fine. We're going to do the work. We're not afraid. We'll roll up our sleeves. We'll do that. So, command of the room, professional appearance. Some of us are leaders. We come into a place and we cannot even project our voices for people to hear. Not shouting, but there's a way that somebody just says something, the whole room quietens down. So I think that, it's that thing that is special about you and the confidence that you have to engage in this specialness. The courage that you have to be able to be that special, unique person. Um, and to be able to carry people along. I don't know if I've said much now, but
You have said a lot.
yeah, but
And And to put it in context, I'll share a personal story of mine. Choma in the group in the chat box mentioned something that she likes the it factor, that no one can have that it factor like you.
yeah.
And that it says a lot about authenticity of people. And I think many of us or many people struggle with what it means to be authentic. And they are boxed in a particular role that makes them behave in a certain way. So many people think a CEO or a C-suite executive is firm. Yes, you should be firm. Is strict, is a no-nonsense person, right? So those ideologies reframe people's thinking and behaviors in a wrong way, right? And if you've experienced failure before, right, especially in your career, I, for one, was promoted into a role where I struggled. My new manager, that was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, was not happy with what I was doing, no matter what I did. At the end of the year, I was kicked out of that role.
Mhm.
And that role was a role I was identified as a star performer to grow in,
Mhm.
right? But when I went into that role, management changed, expectations changed, and but for me, that role taught me a lot about myself. It made me clear where I was going to. I think those milestones have led me to do what I do today, right? So I think failure and things like that, your personal stories help reframe your authentic self. Helps you mentioned courage. I think that's where I'm going to. The courage to find who you are and be proud and of who you are and learn. Like you soak up so much knowledge. Your executive presence will be so authentic that wherever you go, it is loud without being loud. You're your authentic self. Um, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Just to write on what you're saying.
Yes, I think it's really important. And let's not forget the outward one, reading the room also. The science says that it takes 12 seconds for somebody to decide who you are.
Beautiful.
Literally 12 seconds. So when somebody looks at you or you come into a place, they will take 12 seconds to decide whether you are worth knowing, worth speaking to, worth listening to. So you have to make it count, you know. And truly, so for 12 seconds, if you also hold their attention, that means that you can hold their attention for 12 seconds. So you need to make it meaningful. So after that, you may be able to, you don't have 12 seconds anymore. You really have to work and struggle. So if that 12 seconds has been squandered, it's going to be a lot of work for people to now change their minds about you. So it is very important. One of the dangers of it is also that sometimes we act, we're very performative because we
Yeah.
think that we should have this thing. And so we start to form boss and we try to form Oga. And sometimes it's not gelling. So, for
Mhm.
example, you have a way that you think an Oga is, they don't carry their bags. People are
Yeah.
always following them. People don't go, somebody doesn't close, from work till the Oga has closed and so on. So we have a way of thinking that this is what it means to have executive presence, to be a leader. And we end up, squandering the long-term goodwill that we're going to have. We end up even squandering the executive presence because there's no authenticity, there's no empathy, there's no engagement, there's no feeling for people. So it's really, as she said, it's about it. So let me not even reframe it. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about you factor. That's it. It's not an it factor. It's about you factor. So executive presence is how you distill your essence to leadership.
Thank you for that. And it leads me to my next question, which is about emotional intelligence. You
Okay.
mentioned about reading the room. You mentioned about understanding yourself and framing yourself to be your true self. Now,
Mhm.
emotional intelligence is largely misunderstood. I think objectively bringing it into this conversation will help the audience here understand it better. Um, in in summary, emotional intelligence is about understanding who you are, and understanding how who other people are, and how you can influence them. I'll give an example. We all have triggers, right? We all have triggers which we sometimes we don't even know they are there.
Mm-hmm.
And we go into the office, maybe after a long drive to the office, there's traffic, you're already triggered and you do not realize you're triggered. And you go into a meeting, and when you step into that meeting, you just put on your boss cap and boss cap, no nonsense cap. But you don't know you're triggered and you're just triggering yourself again. So when someone just speaks in a way that's not aligned with what you want, it's it's just bass boast, like,
Yep.
and that's it,
Yep. You offload.
your fluid. So that's emotional intelligence now. How can people objective tools that can help people be more emotionally intelligent, which is even more important than intellect as we rise up.
Okay, so in this, I'm just going to pick up, one of the components of emotional intelligence that you are talking to here. And this is emotional regulation.
Correct.
You know, um, honestly, I don't know what it is, whether it's our culture, whether it's how we are cultured, and it's across, I think African cultures, but more sharply in Nigerian culture, that, we're not very emotionally regulated when we are bosses. We feel that once I become an oga or once I'm an executive, then that means that I remove my human garb and wear one that is like someone said to me that Nigerians, they like to keep Nigeria a jungle because then they can play lion, and eat whoever they want. So this is what happens, Emotional regulation is a key component of emotional intelligence. In fact, it is also foundational to executive presence. If you cannot regulate yourself, the ability to manage your internal state, particularly under pressure, it really directly impacts on how others perceive your gravitas and your credibility. I know somebody that they were gisting us that in the boardroom, he throws his shoes at his executive, that apparently he removes his shoe, and if you say something that he finds stupid, he just bam with his shoe. And the executive directors are still there. Why are they there? Because possibly maybe the money is good. But
Yes.
imagine if somebody comes and treats them well and even offers them, not even up to the same thing. So at a certain point, people do not stay in organizations because of money. They stay in
Yeah.
there, because of how people treat them, right? So one of the things I'd like to talk about is grace under fire. Yes,
Beautiful.
to
Grace on.
remain calm and composed in crisis. And I think that at this point, though, Nigerians, we should have learned that by now, crisis is a state of being for us. So basically, when we can manage our own anxiety and our own fear, and we project an aura of stability and confidence, that reassures people around us, it builds trust and makes people feel safe. So, for example, if I'm the leader and I'm throwing a tantrum, what of a junior officer that has messed up? So, for example, there's some people that, I was reading that two young people came into the office and they were tech people, not really, they're not so whatever. So, they wanted to do something on the computer and they decided to disable the firewalls. Immediately, they disabled the firewalls, um, somebody went in and did some fraud, and took some money out. And these two young people did not even know what they've done. An hour or so later, the head of that place just came in and is like, "What happened? What did this?" Shouting. And nobody told them that disabling that firewall for them to do a routine thing also disables, the security elements of, bank accounts, of some bank accounts. And somebody was able to go in there and take some money. And of course, it was just, they were just so terrified and afraid. And the head of theirs, when they came in, they were very calm under pressure. Okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Did you tell them they were not supposed to do? Did they understand what they were? Did they understand the assignment? Did they know the gravitas of what it is that they were doing? And of course, they didn't. And at the end of the day, this is it. So you have to really look at it. And also, decisiveness is very important. So, emotional regulation prevents the leader from making impulsive, fear based decisions. And whether we like it or not, all of us are afraid. There's no way that you can tell me that every day of your life you come into an environment full of people and you are okay. I know that, even when I start speaking in a room like this, I'm like, am I speaking rubbish? Yes, sometimes it's like that. You go to meetings as like, am I making sense? So even me, I'm not sure what I'm saying. So all of us, have, and that's the human condition. The human
Yes.
condition is that we doubt ourselves. There's a really nice talk that, some few years back, a TED talk that I watched with this lady, and she talks about the doubt essential to faith. So you always have to doubt yourself because that's where growth is. If you don't doubt yourself, you will not prepare, you will not, make this. So you need to be decisive. You have to also, trust and psychological safety. Once you are prone to emotional outbursts, people are not going to trust you. They will lie to you. They will misrepresent facts. All they want to do is like children. When you have a child that you always beat, please take it from me, they will be the biggest liar. That child will tell lies. They will beat them again. They will still tell more lies because they feel that when they tell the truth, they get punished by it. So they're going to continue to tell lies. I don't know if you remember in primary school, there would be that one child that teacher would flog. From one lie, they will graduate to a bigger lie. So the lies even because stop it, and we will be telling the child, stop it, but they're too far gone. So
Mhm.
trust and psychological safety, you have to make people feel safe to be able to come to you if they have a problem. Because if they don't, they will leave you in the dark. And there's no leader without followers. There's really none. Effective communication as well. Like I said to you, the head of that head came and started to find out what really went on with those boys. When you were training them, did you tell them that this disables that? Did they even know the gravity of what they're doing? So at the end of the day, it was the training that was not there. They did not communicate well. So when emotions are not regulated, communication suffers. Like I said, you'll be vague. You don't want to come out and
Yes.
say something. You know how we are in Nigeria, always sitting on the fence, two legs in one side and the other, because either which way, sha, you don't lose, or is it other which ways you win something? Because you don't want to. So it's really important. So without this regulation, it's not possible for you to be consistent with gravitas, with even poise. Because you're talking and somebody's like, how they squeeze their mouth and show you, they're like, oh yeah, let him say what he wants to say. They'll just go and do exactly what they want to do to save themselves. So it's an internal operating system that runs on external performance. So back end issues. You have to really work on your inside, which is your back end, so that the external and, as they say, UX and UI, right? You have to work
Yeah.
on them so that when you are bringing out something, it's seamless and it looks good because you've done the work that you're supposed to do. Have I answered that question?
Yes, yes, yes. And I'd love to tell some stories to reflect what you just spoke about. Now, for communication, I usually do a trick. I ask a trick question when I'm having my training sessions for companies and their leaders and their followers, some of their followers. I ask them a question like, communication, the types of communications we have, which is verbal and non-verbal, which is more important? And most time I get mixed answers. Many say verbal is important. Some say non-verbal is important. And then I reveal the answer that non-verbal is usually about 65% more important than verbal being 35%. And just to be clear, what you say is not as important as how you say it. And I think that's also one of the important elements that these people with gravitas, these business leaders that carry weight, understand that their communication is golden and they learn the art of communicating. And I like the way you mentioned effective communication, effective underlined. It has to be effective. What you are saying is the message being communicated. Is the other person understanding what you are saying? Are you framing your words in a way that your followers and people understand, right? Or they're just afraid and nodding their heads,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Yes. Meanwhile, they're
Yeah.
just scared to ask you.
Yeah, and those meetings, they will brief you. All of you will say yes. Then after you go out of the meeting, all of you will form cliques to say, what did they say? What did they,
Yes.
and you'll be like, yeah, they just didn't get it. Very, very important. So I will just interject here that, my mom owned a school, and for a few years I used to run the school as the lead. And one of the big posters that we had inside was for the teachers. If a child said they don't, if they, if a child says they don't understand or they don't know it, that means you have not taught it. So once a child now you say, but I taught you this yesterday, and the child says no, that means you've not taught it. You've not
Correct.
taught it because there's no understanding there. It's either whether they can't remember. If they can't remember, then refresh their memory. If it is that they say they don't know, that means you did a bad job. So basically, it's about, the result is, in the person. What you say, has it been encoded, as you said? Has it been understood? And does it lead to the action that you want to happen? Yes, because that is really the proof is in the pudding. When I say something, I want something to happen. Has that thing happened? And if it hasn't happened, why? Is it that they didn't hear me? Was I not clear? So essentially, when you're learning about communication, also, I think one of the things to really understand, and I tell this to young people all the time, especially those that come to work with me, I want you to communicate to me in such a way that I don't have to ask a question. So when you tell me, there's somebody waiting for me outside, they want to see me. I don't want you to tell me that. I want you to tell me there's a Mr. Simon that wants to see you. He said you have an appointment with him, or he said he doesn't have an appointment, and he's coming from Cadbury. He says that he will take 5 minutes of your time, and he's talking to you about A, B, C, and D. I don't want to to ask a question when you're communicating with me. It should be that you have everything. I shouldn't have to say when, where, how, what, when. So I tell them those five friends and a who, or is it and a how, the whys, what's, when. You pass every communication through that. And once it ticks all the boxes, then you can bring it to me.
I
Very
love that story. Let me write on that story. That thing you just mentioned is a framework. And if people could learn that, it would help them a long way. Because when I interface with business leaders, I don't take that moment for granted, those few minutes I have with them for granted. So I'm always business facing, I'm always giving them information as to the context of why I'm there. So
Mhm.
some people might not understand that, and they go and they start bantering, they start talking about their weekend, talking about which are good things to build rapport. But you have to understand that business leaders are very busy. So you have 1 minute to make your point, and as much information you can pack into that 1 minute, 2 minutes, you make sure you share it completely. And I think that's also in terms of perception. If you can communicate clearly with business leaders when you have the opportunity with them, the perception they have of you rises because you've understood they are busy people, you've understood what message they want, and you reward such people when the time is right because they've built perception over a long time. And also another executive I know, he calls it memory markers. Like there are markers executives carry about you
Mhm.
over the time, 1 year period with you, 2 year period with you. And at the right time, they would use that to open doors for
Yeah,
you, right? I think that's the objective also of this class, of this session, for people to understand how to use this information to better position themselves.
indeed.
Okay. Okay. And one more story. I've been in rooms when they ask people, business leaders, if they have questions. And we all know that person in our office, in our workplace, who will always have questions. And when the person raises his hands, everybody's like, okay,
Oh,
here we go again.
yes.
And this person goes and says one thing, which he can say in 15, 30 seconds. He will say the same thing 2 times, 3 times, 4 times with different words. And 4 minutes, he's done and sits down. That person is doing himself a disservice because perception is building for that person that this is not a great communicator. He doesn't have emotional intelligence. He doesn't have the it factor, which is why we're having this executive presence, right? So people have to hold themselves, literally arrest themselves and pause and select their words wisely.
And I think it's what we're saying about that authentic self. in this, in having to prove yourself and show that you have something, you tend to think that it's about talking. So for example, I remember one of the first few times that I joined the boards, the first few times that I went to board meetings, and I always felt very bad, because everybody was asking questions. And I didn't have questions to ask. Or if I want to ask the question, somebody would have already asked. And then I just used to feel so intimidated, because I'm not asking the right questions. I'm not, and so on. And over the years, I found that, really, I went back into my authentic self and it's like, okay, I'm not a person that talks too much. If I really don't need to know something, I don't feel the need to ask questions and make people listen to me. So I'm happy enough, with okay. So now I'm a bit more confident when people say, oh, do you have a question to ask? I'm not. And I find that also my style is not, to ask a question. I think these are also things that you know about yourselves, maybe culturally. I find it very difficult to go into a room and raise my hand and say something. So I prefer to meet somebody afterwards or to write a message afterwards to say, have you considered this? And oftentimes I'll find people say, why didn't you raise your hand? Why didn't you raise your hands? So I think that we really need to put it in perspective. You don't have to say something if you don't have anything to say. And I realize that saying something for people is like say something so that you don't, it doesn't seem as if you don't have or notice me. So this
Yes.
gravitas also is about this, so that the day you open your mouth, it's really heavy. What you need to come out with or what you come out with is very heavy. And you are not, so it's not the case of, well, you again. It's like when this person speaks, I know something interesting is going to come on, something, that's enriching. So let's not talk for talking's sake. I think that's part of gravitas.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that point out. Everyone, please, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat box. We will be ending this conversation by 7:10, 7:15. So please ask your questions now as much as you can. Um, okay, next question. I have two more questions for you. For
Okay.
those who have, how can people, leaders, rebuild or refine their executive presence if they feel it has been damaged? All right. So I have someone that actually asked me this question when he saw the topic I posted. I think he has done himself some disservice and he has damaged his reputation a bit. So he's trying to objectively rebuild his executive presence. Everything you've mentioned is part of it, but I'm trying to see what vulnerable things can people wear. It's also good to be vulnerable sometimes. People think as a leader, you shouldn't show vulnerability and things like that. So just want to hear from you. What other thoughts do you think for this particular person?
So I think it's challenging, but it's totally achievable. I think that he has the opportunity to make a fantastic comeback because we're human beings, we're creatures of stories, and we also, are extremely, extremely lenient, especially when you lock into something that's authentic. And you mentioned something that's very important, which is vulnerability. So the key shift is to focus from short term, which is the gravitas, the communication, the appearance, right? To long-term observable behavior. So now he needs to prove himself. Once trust has been broken, especially psychological trust, you need to do the work. And
Yes.
so you need to acknowledge the damage and take responsibility. So basically, you need to acknowledge what is the breach? How did that breach occur? What specific actions damaged your reputation? Own them without excuses. So I am really sorry. At this point, I did this, and this is my reason for doing so. This act of vulnerability can be a powerful first step in rebuilding the trust, right? So you also focus on the long-term characteristics. So referencing, there's a model that, is called Dangley and Gasket, right? It focuses on 5 characteristics that are evaluated over time. So when people are with you for a long time, there are 5 things that they watch out with. Interpersonal integrity. So make your actions and your words impeccably consistent. Do what you say you will do, right? Every single time and be transparent in your motives. I don't know if anybody has read the 4 agreements, right? Be impeccable with your words, truly. authenticity, integrity. You need to be values in action. Basically, you reconnect with your core values and make them visible in your daily decisions. So sometimes when you break trust with people is because you act out of value or out of integrity. And sometimes it's a very short-term thinking and sometimes instinctual, some instinctive, and sometimes because you're trying to achieve something misguidedly. So you downplay your values. So you need to be able to now connect with your core values and make them visible. So if you value people, make decisions that prioritize them. If you didn't prioritize them before, you apologize, you take responsibility, then you come back and start to prioritize them, right? Outcome delivery, you also establish a reputation for competence and delivering results. So take on a challenging project or challenging person and execute it flawlessly. Let the work speak for yourself. So this one now, you're going to work hard new. This is, you are going to roll up that sleeve and, try to recapture back your reputation. Intellect and expertise, you share your knowledge generously. You mentor people, you become the go-to resource. So you're just going to be very strategic about how you do this. And you're going to avoid using your formal authority to get things done. Now you're going to try to connect with human beings as they are. Listen more, speak less. Damage presence often results, from leaders being perceived as arrogant, dismissive, not a good listener. So make a conscious effort to listen. This is repair work and it's going to be hard. There's no pride inside it. You're just going to go and be yourself. And that is your authentic self. No performance, no anything. And ask for feedback. You guys, I want to change myself. What am I going to do differently? What is working? Or after you do something and you're trying to connect, you guys, just give me some time. I promise it's going to be better. Okay, what have I done now? Are you okay with this? Do we consider in this way? Include people, yes, so that you rebuild, presence. It's not a sprint. It truly is a marathon. It takes time. And people are really good and they usually give you grace if they feel and perceive honesty. And we're creatures of instinct. When you see a bad person, and most of us that have not, really become very jaded, sometimes when you meet a person that this is not a good person or this is not a nice person. When somebody's being honest. When it's not. Why? Because, we have a hind brain, which is an animal brain, and we are built for survival. So our body gives us the people that could be dangerous to us. It's just, I'm not comfortable, Sha. I don't know, Sha. That guy, Sha. That woman, Sha. Somehow. But it's your hind brain, that's your animal brain, your instincts telling you that there's something to look at here. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I think it can work. I think you can get it back. So those things, I think, I'll try to share a presentation with Adabo and maybe perhaps it could be a resource for you guys or it could be something to carry on. But it's entirely doable. It's just like when you break trust, you get it back if you're committed and the reasons are right.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I want you guys to, with emojis, say thank you to her. She's saying she's going to share with us a presentation. She's a very busy executive coach. Oh, really, this is an honor having Maryam here today. Say yes, TMN superstars. Thank you. Send the love to her. Let's send the love to her.
Okay, I'm seeing the love. Thank you, Zain.
Yes.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Thank you, Ju. Thank you, Lucy. I've seen so many of them.
Yes.
Testing, Opeyemi,
Community, you
Michael,
guys, thank you. You're making me proud. Thank you.
Yomi. Yes, thank you guys. Somebody has just, thrown
Big
the love
part.
across the screen. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Because really the feedback I'm getting along because of this, people are really enjoying this. And I'm happy because you are saying things that are not being taught. This will really change people's lives. And I'm looking forward to seeing the testimonials that will come because of this class you have given. There's a book you mentioned, as if you just knew. My next question was going to be, can you recommend a book for the audience to read? And you just spoke about Before Agreement. When I tell you she's my mentor, I'm not joking. When she gave me this book, when I read it, I was like, my God, like my mind shifted. And when your mind shifts, it never goes back to your former self. That book is amazing. It's not just one book, it's two books. So please everyone the four agreements. Look for this book. It's in stores, it's available. If you want it, let me know. I can help you. I can direct you where you need to get it from. It's a beautiful book, right?
This
So
one.
thank you. Thank you for the presentation you share. Thank you for that book. All right. So I have one more question for you, but I think everyone's dropping questions now. So
Go
let
for it.
see their questions. So Choma says,
Mhm.
she says, thank you for your insights. My question is there a common framework to building lasting executive presence?
I think there are people that have, made many, many frameworks, you know. I think that I can share it with you, but I think it's about building your authentic self, you know. And the frameworks are just guides. So I'll drop some, like some of the people that I've quoted, here. There's a lady that I was talking about, what's her name? Simon Sinek is also one, Amy Cuddy is one. So there are a few of them. I think I'll put them in the presentation. They have all sorts of values in action. They all are management thinkers. And they have Adam Grant is also someone, professor in this, Brené Brown. There are many people that are working within that. But I think for me, it's like, work on yourself. Work on what is authentic for you. I don't know. I'm not a very framework person, because I think that, that uniqueness in you, that's just it. That's just the thing. You. So within this personal integrity, what is your own? What is your value? What is, the things that you will, what is the thing that makes you different from other people? And I think that I think I spied a question that I would add on to this. And that is that, in a place where you need to get noticed, sometimes it is absolutely not about opening your mouth, quite truthfully. And
Yeah.
for you to even, if you need to say something and you don't find anything to say, maybe it would be to thank somebody authentically. So, for example, when they do board meetings, and I don't have anything to say, when they all, at the end of it, it's like, okay, I'd like to say thank you very much to the team for what they've presented. This is what I've learned today. I wasn't very sure about this and that, but the question this person asked and this person said, really, made me understand the things better. And I agree with this person and thank you. Not that you raise your hand and just say, I agree, I agree, I agree. No, but just bring it together, so that they see that you were listening, you were present, and you have an opinion about it. But sometimes, just saying things for saying sake, I think it's really, really not the thing. I think it's yourself, and it comes across. Those people that are always asking questions for the sake of asking questions, it becomes tedious. But so I think not really framework, but my thing is read a lot around, look at, people, what they do, how they do, work on your authenticity. I would recommend books. I read a lot. So I think that, for me, books are a big conversation. When you start reading, it challenges you, it makes you reflect on where you are at and what you're doing. And especially when there are people you admire, there's a lot of management science going on about leadership and so on and so forth. So read, I think for me. I don't know if I've made sense, but I hope that has helped. But I'll share what I have, and then you see what you take from there.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think also in addition, every single point you mentioned today is really a framework also. So from being a master communicator, that's a framework. So we have to do the work to learn everything about communication, right? Your true self. Reading that four agreements book, like this is what the book looks like. I'm sure you can see. You can't see it. In fact, you can't even see it. In fact, I would I would donate 5 copies to anyone who wants it, right? On behalf of the multinational
Thank
network.
you. Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, so chat me anyone who wants it privately. You must have my
Fasted
number.
fingers.
Yes.
Fasted fingers.
Chat me privately if you want the book. And
Uh,
yes, they're available. All you have to do is pay the delivery to you because I won't pay delivery to you, right? But I'll give you the book guaranteed. Beautiful.
Fantastic.
So
It
I think,
is.
yeah, I think, like you said, learning communication, learning what else? Poise, learning appearance, learning perception. Those are really frameworks. And I think I'm going to create more products going to the new year so that we have all these things taught as objective things, not just words, but we'll teach these things so that people can really, really understand what it means. There's a question here. I can't see it totally, but it's something like this from Gloria. She says there's something called the authenticity paradox, where you are in between where you are and where you're aspiring to. Does
Mhm.
being vulnerable at an executive level, I can't see the question after that.
Okay, let me try to see Gloria. Yes. Does being vulnerable at an executive level as you undergo this process helps you increase your presence? I think that you can't fight with vulnerability. There's a lady that I read that I've been reading for the past decade and a half, and she's called Brené Brown. She's a shame researcher. I think you should look for her. You know, I will try to put it here. She writes something very new, now. She has a new book out. It's about leadership. I will type her name, and she's a professor of shame. And she talks about shame being a regulator for human beings. So why am I saying this? Okay, you follow her, you have many of her books. Okay, so that's fine. I think that so you already know maybe a lot of the answer that I'm going to give you. I think you just need to do the work. And I think vulnerability is very important. But this vulnerability, you have to first sit with yourself, because it opens new things. You know how they say that if I tell you my secret, you can't abuse me again. You can't use that thing to make me feel bad. So if I've admitted that I don't know something, I mean, how much making fun of me can you do? So you need to sit with yourself before vulnerability works. That means you need to accept your own limitations so that when you bring it out and somebody, maybe attacks you or somebody does not give you the response that you want, then it doesn't make you go back to yourself and decide that vulnerability is not the thing. I think, these things are being true to yourself. It's incredibly important. There's sometimes I think there's a thing that I watched recently of one official that came out and admitted that he had an affair with his wife, with another woman, and he's apologizing to everybody in his constituency. And you know something, people forgave him. Why? Because he was able to be vulnerable. He was able to say, "This is not what I'm going to do again," and looked towards making it better. So I'm not saying that, it's easy, but vulnerability always trumps. I think openness, vulnerability, I don't know. It's really the beginning of wisdom, I think, for me. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah, I don't know if I've answered Gloria, but this is my two kobo on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody said the name of the book, Four Agreements. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can see Omaka has volunteered to send soft copy to some people.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you, Omaka. Hmm? I want the Audible also in the manner of speaking. Okay. Um, so yes, thank you, Miriam, for that answer. The more we research people, and I think what you've just answered is being your authentic self, right? Getting comfortable with whatever answers you give at any particular point, any meeting. Because the more you fight yourself and you doubt your answers, you doubt if it's good enough, it's really the same thing. You've not gotten to that point of total acceptance of and trust, total trust of what your experiences and your answers and who you are, right? And I remember two, three leaders, men and women. Every time I see them, they are so calm. Like you can feel the aura around them. They are calm in their skin. And I know they don't have it all because I've interviewed Chidi Okoro, I've interviewed Paul Wunabi, the group CEO of Landmark, and I asked them the same question. How do you deal with fear? Right? Because we seem to think that these people are all fearless and they just build things and they're not scared of failure. And he says he's scared like everybody else. he's scared for when he takes on projects and takes on anything, but he doesn't let fear stop him. To the point you mentioned, courage. He's courageous about stepping forward and doing what needs to be done. Even as simple as public speaking. He said, yes, I'm scared of speaking, but I will still step up when it's time to speak.
Do it afraid.
Do it afraid, right? So I think it's that level of courage and trust in yourself that also helps, right? There's a long question here, like it's a breath, but let me try and I think that's the last question we have. Mystery.
I actually have put up some of my favorite books that I read this year, and maybe you share it.
Okay, Five Types of Wealth, Sahil Bloom, all by Professor Dutch. Now, I need to have the personal one you tell me. This is for everyone. But in our chat, please, I need my next book. I don't know if it's here, but
Okay.
I need to have one.
Yeah, it's there. One of them is here.
Okay, fair enough. Um, okay. All right. So the question I see here, let me try and paraphrase. Basically, the individual works in a toxic environment where people backbite um, and backstab a lot. People are bickering, gossiping around stuff. And now she's at the, I think, individual. Okay. So after she was working a team and she seems to be she was let go kicked out of keep left the team, but now she's left, things are not being resolved.
Okay.
Okay, bottom line, she's question is how do I get work done without doing eye service or just forming busy around the place? Is a whole lot. Bottom line, I can see that this is a toxic environment. First
Mhm.
of all, I'd like to apologize. I'm sorry that you're in such a situation. I've been in toxic situations and it's not anything I would wish on anybody. You have to find your I don't say way your way out, but you have to find what works for you. So what advice can you give for someone working in a toxic environment? I think that's the real question.
Hmm. In fact, this is a conversation that I just had with my son this afternoon about toxicity and about, your boundaries. So I think he told me that I'm speaking, like a 50-year-old. Maybe I've lived all my life, and so he's just like starting his life. And so therefore, I think there's some things that are non-negotiable, which is your mental, psychological, and emotional health. We have made it a national sport to be toxic to each other, and honestly, it is very disturbing to me the way that we feel that the best way we can engage ourselves is to be toxic as opposed to bring joy and be joy. Happiness, it's really interesting. There's a recent research that came out that, the people that have the happiest bosses or happy bosses create the best environments, around. And so it's important for people to be happy and to be okay. But I find that large offices, because my two sisters work in very large offices, I think they're just toxic. People just come in and just dump on you. I would say leave. But that is not for some people a financial decision that they can make easily. Some people have put in so many years and blood in somewhere that they may not be able to. My sincere advice is to create boundaries around yourself and just do the work if you can. Do not engage yourself in that toxicity, even though it's hard. But I think we've already sort of made, because sometimes those two sisters, when we sit down to talk, all they talk about sometimes is who does what in the office, and then somebody did this and reported them and did not report them and whatever it is. And I was like, do you guys realize that all you talk about is work, which boss is bad, which one is doing this, which one is stealing money? It's not very nice. So I think it's to leave it alone, if I were you, to not involve yourself and to create boundaries. There was a guy that, my sister used to work with, and this guy, they used to call him like in Hausa that he's going to heaven. Why? Because in that department, when work is going on, he will do his work. When they are going to do bad things in the department, they'll give him casual leave. So he leaves and he goes off and they do all the bad things they're doing and he comes back and continues his work. So sometimes you need to look at, your authentic self. What are you looking for? Do you want to lead or become an executive at all costs? What is important to you? And this is the work that I say you have to do the back end work. What are your non-negotiables in a work environment? What will you stay for? What will you not leave? You forget, and also don't forget that in executive or in workplaces, you know, only part of what happens to you is dependent on you. They may also sack you. So you have to put it in perspective because it's a two-way street. So what will you stay for? And what will they keep you for? So I think that it's that kind of work that you have to do. So you have to play politics. So somebody is saying organizational politics, you play it or you pay for it. Please discuss this in relation to boards and governance. So I think that you have to be aware of the politics, but I don't think you need to play it. I don't think that you need to play it. I think that you can come and do what you need to do and read the room. Yes. So there are some people in your office that they don't play the politics. They just do their work. Some they even label them, this one is a Christian. Oh." Why are they a Christian? Simply because they don't involve themselves in this, rigmarole. So I don't know if you pay for it in that sense. If you do, then I think you have to do a kind of work on yourself. Do you belong in a place that makes you pay for simply doing the right thing? And these are questions that you need to ask yourself very, very early on. I don't know that I want to be an executive in a place where, I'm constantly unhappy and so on. So, my easiest thing to say is that have you worked on yourself? Do you know who you are and the values that drive you? And if you are clear about the values that drive you, then what are your negotiables and your non-negotiable? And if you have those, ahead, you can be able to navigate most situations because if you know those things, then you don't even have choices in certain things. So somebody said to me, we always have choices. And they said, no, that if you have a choice, that means that you don't know yourself. Yes?
Mm.
Because once you know yourself, there's things that are not choices. Choices then become colors. But when it's values, there are no choices there. It's either I will steal or not steal. There's no gray area in between, right? The choices are clear. So I don't know. I really feel sorry. Like I'm very lucky to not work in a big organization, to have never also worked in a big organization. I did it for 2 years, beginning of career. I worked in somewhere called MBT in Kaduna. I was an officer and it was a government thing regulating polytechnics. After 2 years, I found my way out because I just didn't see how, whenever I wanted to work or had something to say, my oga would think I'm looking for money, so he would send me to Ilaro. And at that time, the basic travel allowance was 25K. And so I'll get 25K, and he thought that that was okay for me, I'll keep quiet and allow, as they say, water to go under the bridge, or I will allow things to happen. And 2 years later, I decided that no, this is not what I want to do. And I think you know, people may say, oh, you have the luxury of not doing, but if all of you have reached the point where you're C-suite, you have the luxury of picking your values. You can't go wrong with it. And for me, I would always, always advise that business is about trust. Almost every relationship in life is about trust, is about honoring people, is about all the good stuff. So, and the research follows the good stuff, right? It's like it tells us if you're happier, this. In fact, there's another research that came out, some years back that says that if you're good looking, you get employed, you get paid more. But anyway, that's a topic of discussion for another day. So it's all the good stuff. If you're a leader and you are kind, kindness trumps anything. So I think it's about that, as we said in the beginning, executive presence is value based, it's integrity based. So you can't do it while you're uncomfortable and playing politics. You can't do it while you are choking somebody or you are feeling uncomfortable. It comes across. So since you've gotten to this point, my thinking is that you're just one step away from the C-suite. Differentiate yourself with integrity and all the good stuff. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Thank you very much, Mariam, for that. Um, as we wrap up, I would like to make one point and summarize everything you've said. The point I'm making is during in my podcast, the Multinational Network, on YouTube, it's at TMN Community. Let me just drop in the chats. I interviewed two people, and you're the third person saying the same answer they said. Now, three of you don't know each other, but I asked the same question about office politics, and the three of you said the same thing, that be aware of office politics, but do not get involved in it.
Yeah.
And three of you are all executives at the highest form of business leadership, and you said the same thing. So I will advise everyone that there's truth. Truth is clear. It's black. It's not black. It's black or white. It's very clear. Find a way to understand the office politics going on. And the second point they raised was be so valuable at what you do, be so good at what you do that your excellence always brings you into the room. You are always in the room because they cannot push you because the business will crumble because you're not there. Like, be so good in that your sector, whatever role capacity you are, that you are unreplaceable. I know people are generally replaceable, but your authentic self, what you bring to the table, your thoughts, your ideas, the way you lead is so authentic and so genuine that they need you in the room. So that's an advice I would like to share as we wrap up this conversation.
I wanted to say something, so I want to say that signs of lacking executive presence, I would like to just give, like five or six, and I think
Please.
you should watch it with your bosses and watch it in yourself. So,
Okay.
let me just quickly do this. So if you're frequently interrupted or talked over, really you are lacking executive presence. Very
Yes.
important. If you're often the last to know about problems or things that are going on, you really do lack it. So your influence is also limited to your direct reports. We go into organizations, somebody say, I can't speak to them, or they're not in my departments, or please, we're in different teams. So that means that, really executive presence is lacking because you should be able to speak to anyone. At the very least, they should listen to you and be able to tell you, even if they can't do anything about it, they should. So the meetings that you lead often devolve into chaos or go off on tangents. I see this many times. Somebody's leading a meeting, they start arguing, somebody hijacks it. You become flustered and defensive or emotional. So instead of talking about the issues, you start talking about people. You know, this person did me this person did me this. Keep it focused. It's work. You came there to work. It's not your house. So, so don't become too emotional. People feel drained or anxious after interacting with you. Sometimes there's some of us that, our secretary will be the person that will tell people if it's a good time to talk to us or not because we can eat you up. Or when we come, it's like, you don't want to do this now. The person came screaming. So you rely on jargon. This is the Nigerian trait, complexity or excessive detail to make a point. I've been into board meetings, like financial things. They will come with all this REO, ROI, EV. I was like, I raised my hand. I said, please, these abbreviations, it doesn't work. I don't understand it. So please, I would appreciate it if somebody will actually, tell me what the abbreviations are. And of course, people were like, but it's okay. Even yesterday, so I've come to do a course, and it's somewhere called IMD, and they do management courses. And yesterday they were talking about valuations, mergers and acquisitions, and whatever it is. Like, when they come to the calculation, I told the professor, nice, Italian professor, sir, I don't know these calculations, and whatever. He just said, it's okay, just have a sense of it. The reason why you were brought to the board was not because of calculations. It was because of the critical thinking to ask them why these calculations are there. So please, this jargon, Nigerians were very good at it, especially Lagos. You even said, so now, when I came to Lagos, people will call me MAM. I was like wondering, what the hell is that? So somebody explained to me that my name is Maryam Aliko Mohammed, and therefore is the M and the A and the M. Themselves. Okay, they have to. This Lagos, they complicate, and I'm not only talking about Lagos, they complicate things. And these things are things that exclude you. You have to be confident enough to say, I don't understand this. It is not a sign of stupidity. It is just that I do not know. So please, when you start talking about, oh, you share capital, the this to people, and you're thinking you're being intelligent, I think that you must always, you know, be as simple as possible. And you feel the need to feel every moment we talk. Back to the thing that I said, sorry, about you don't have to say, you don't have to ask questions, or you don't have to, do anything. You don't have to feel every moment we talk. I trained as a coach. One of the most important skills that you need to learn, and please practice it. You go into a room, you're talking with someone, just keep quiet for 30 seconds. The person will get jittery and will start telling you everything you need to know. Especially when you're parenting. Please, this is the free tip for those of us that have male children that are naughty. You just ask a question, you keep quiet. You just sit them down. Oh, yeah, sit down. I want to talk to you. You keep quiet. Okay, that thing that you did, I'm really disappointed. You don't even need to say what it is. You just keep quiet and you'll be looking. Before you know it, they'll start telling you the one you know, the one you do not know. So silence is actually a redirection. Use it well. It's an executive tool. Your words are actually, you need to be impeccable with them. Yes, it's not everything that you must say and you must, whatever. Make yourself scarce. As my sister says, put yourself in
Yeah.
show glass. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to be out there everywhere. So I just thought I would share this because I think it's good to spot these things out, even in our orgas, to know that some of them are, no, no, they need to improve.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Um, I like to recap everything. We're supposed to end at 7:15, 7:24, we're still going. But I like to end at this point. So, in summary, you've said lots of things about what executive presence is and what it is not. I think that's those two buckets will help us define what it is and help us be better at the workplace starting tomorrow, right? You said a few things like grace under fire. I love that frame, that phrase is very um loud and very important to understand what that means. Emotional intelligence, being decisive at work, having people trust us and have that psychological safety around us is important. Reading books, and you shared with us over this hour 5 books that can help change our mindset. Number one, The Four Agreements. You mentioned Brent Brown, who has done a lot of work about shame and vulnerability. Five Types of Wealth. Then you have another book called Awe by Professor Dacha and Fight Right by John Schwartz. Okay, you talked about office appearance, office politics also. You should be aware of it, but you must not play it. You also mentioned about our authentic self. I think that's really, 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 really most important thing, having that authentic self, right? And you mentioned Audible, that is 3.7 per month. Thank you for sharing that information. So everyone, you could really get your own Audible account and download all these books. You learn a lot when you're driving home. Instead of listening to Nigerian stories and who did what and who didn't do what, you could really add lots of that time, drive time, you could learn a lot. Thank you, everyone. So I also posted a link for the TMN community. If you want to watch the videos there, feel free to watch the videos there. And I would use the opportunity to share a link. If you're not in our community and you want to be part of that community, there's a link I would share which you can use to register. Once you register, I will join you into the community. Okay. I can see. So now, guys, sorry for the questions we couldn't ask. We couldn't ask. Blessing, I saw your question, but because of time, we're wrapping up. I would still If I can get the answer from her, I would share it with you personally. For everyone, we're having a retreat the last weekend of January. She's going to be there in person, and she's going to have a session tagged resets. For those looking to reset themselves mentally, for the new year 2026, and really for life. You really want to transit into other things you're looking for. Maryam Mohammed is Maryam Aliko Mohammed is an amazing person. I'm happy you guys have experienced her for just 90 minutes. You've heard what she has shared with us. Imagine being in a room the whole day with her, and all the frameworks you're looking for will be discussed at that retreat. So that's it from me, guys. I can't get the link I'm trying to share for you guys. I can't get it at this point. My system is slow. So, um, reach out to me directly, and I'll share it with you personally. If someone shared the link with you, ask the person how they got the link, and to get back to me, and I'll share the link with you. Thank you again for everything. Ryan is just an awesome. I can see the love just flowing to you. Thank you, guys.
Honestly, thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It was a lovely evening. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Hmm. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Really, this is like one of the most engaging series we've had. Like I'm sure we have over 100 comments here. And
Wow.
so anyway, I'll wrap up the conversation. Everyone, you can drop off now. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Miriam. We'll talk afterwards.
Yes. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone. It's a wrap.
Good night, and thank you so much for a very, very, very insightful session.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Well, good job, man. Well delivered. See you next level.
Omaka,
Yeah, bro. Good
CFO,
job.
Panoramic Sport. Thank you for showing us.
Good job, bro. Good job.
Thank
Well
you,
done,
sir.
Ogawa. Thanks so much for being insightful. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Gloria.